Hello, everyone, and welcome. Uh, for the thousands of new YouTube subscribers, no, not really, but for a lot of you, it's been almost 3 years since I did a non-deck tech, non-podcast, non-gameplay, non-coverage video. It's been a long time. However, last night I laid in bed at 3 a.m. and had a hard time falling back asleep. Because I just actually wanted to get out of bed and record this. I felt like that would be inappropriate. So instead, I laid in bed till 6:30. And then was like, okay, I'm gonna go write this. I'm gonna go talk about it. I don't know if this is gonna be posted under Wednesday Night Warrior. Actually, I got rid of that playlist. So it's probably just gonna be a video here on the YouTube channel, which may or may not become a thing. I don't know. If you like it, leave a like. If you don't, leave a comment. Share it with your friends, share it with your enemies. That's what I always love to say. But I want to start this video off with Universe Beyond. As you can see in the title, this is about the B&R and Final Fantasy. We're actually not going to start with Final Fantasy. The reason is because I want to start with Lord of the Rings. And because of Lord of the Rings, I actually thought that I hated the idea of these sets. I was like, they don't feel like Magic, and they're the Magic IP is so cool, and like I just want more of the Magic IP. Last night, though, as I laid in bed after one of those late night boomer MTG player late night Ps, I don't know if that I could get ads after I said that, but I don't know. I was just thinking about Final Fantasy and wondered if that is even true about me. I think that Lord of the Rings did a couple things that was cool. First of all, it definitely brought in new players. I don't think that you can deny that. I had coworkers at the time that were excited about Magic. I was working at a Web3 game company at the time, and we would do our product / engineering meetups, like these big meetups, actually at Cafe Carbs. Like we would Cafe Carbs. That's Nick. You can't steal that from me. And the number of times where we ended up talking about Magic for a little bit at the time because of Lord of the Rings was literally every single time that we did these big meetups. But I think that there was a pretty huge problem with Lord of the Rings, and it was twofold. The first problem was being modern forward. And I think it did a lot of things wrong. I think that one, it made the set more powerful. And it also added this rotation to a non-rotating format that people didn't want or expect. Obviously, they fixed the second one, but I want to talk about it for a second. I was recently talking to a friend of mine about Modern, and they're like, "Hey, you've hated Modern forever." And I was like, "Well, I don't think that's true." I was thinking back, and the last Modern format I loved was pre-Lord of the Rings. And we're going to get into point 2 as to why I think that is, and what the problem with the B&R is. Lord of the Rings was cool. It actually added a lot of cool cards. I think it made Rhinos go from, for example, kind of a mediocre to like swingy deck that depends on the format to a really good deck and player in the metagame because of Lorien and like things like that. Things that could pitch to the pitch forces and things like that. But it also had the One Ring. And the One Ring we're going to come back to later, but it was just obviously too strong. I mean, not obviously, actually, as I'm thinking about this, because on the podcast, I said I would be surprised if it was super playable. I think that myself and many others did not understand how much that ability to protect yourself the first turn would impact multiple formats. It time walked, and we didn't realize it when we read it the first time because of the way it was worded, and that's hard. That's hard to wrap your head around. But what does that have to do with Final Fantasy? Well, now we live in a Corey Steelcutter world, and just like with the One Ring rotating the format, for a lot of people, it feels like Corey Steelcutter is preventing rotations. It's preventing cards from entering the format because it just has to do with Corey Steelcutter. And that's what the One Ring did for multiple sets. I actually think it was well over a year, right? Like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was a long time. And that made me realize that I don't actually hate Universes Beyond. I hated it at the time, and I think part of it was being modern forward. But the thing is Lord of the Rings should have been the perfect set for me. I love Lord of the Rings. I haven't read the books in a long time, but I was super into it in junior high when the movies came out. I still have watched. I've done podcasts on the trilogy. On my Need to Nerd podcast, and I love it. I even like the Hobbit movies. Like, it should have been the set for me, and there were lots of parts that I did like. But you know what I hate? I hate cards that warp things. I think that everyone else hates cards that warp things. So when Lord of the Rings warped a non-rotating format around Lord of the Rings, people didn't like it. They were adverse to the idea of Universes Beyond because of how this one was presented. And now we're looking at the first standard Universe Beyond set. And people aren't excited. They're not excited like they should be, seeing another IP that should appeal to Magic players a lot. You could totally say that the reason is it's not Magic, it's Final Fantasy. But that's not the vibe I'm getting from Discord, from Twitter, from all these places. It really is like, okay, this is a standard set that I should be excited about because, one, I love standard. I think a lot of the vibe before Corey Steelcutter was standard was maybe the best Magic format. And people are less excited because Corey Steelcutter is in there. So that leads me to believe that Universes Beyond is not the problem. It wasn't the problem with Lord of the Rings. There were different problems. The actual problem is the B&R. To me, this means that we have to change the way that we either ban or design cards. Cards that are identified as a problem need to just be able to be emergency banned. I think back to the cat combo ban a little bit here, in that everyone's like, hey, I don't think standard can handle the cat combo, and we're just like, we'll let it play out. And then a weekend they're like, never mind. Which at the time people were mad about. But in retrospect, if they did that today, I think the reaction would be better because of how the B&R works today. I also think that the name of the IP or the image or whatever is on the card can't be a reason to not ban it. The One Ring, Spider-Man, Sephiroth, whatever it is, can't be the reason we don't ban the card. And the reason is because we should approach each set differently. Like, every time we have a set, we have to look at things differently. And when you don't ban a card because its name is the One Ring, that's a problem. And I will get into that problem and its counter-argument in a minute. But I think that each set should have it. Listen, I'm not telling Wizards how to do their job, but I think each set should have a team of people that will look at the current meta and the best performing decks with the data that Wizards has, and see if the new set fixes the problem with, quote, problem cards, whatever they identify as a problem card. And if they can't fix the problem in X amount of time, decide whether or not that warrants a ban at the release of the next set. Not a month after, not whatever. I mean, maybe a month after is fine, but in order to increase the excitement, you should be able to say, hey, we have done some testing. We've identified these problem cards that will be banned before the new set comes out. We're going to ban them. If things change and we get more data, we will unban them from the previous sets. But in order to keep excitement for the new set and keep the format moving forward, we're going to take these actions. I think that would be received pretty well. Let me leave a comment. Let me know if I sound insane, but I think that would be pretty cool. I think the other thing is that we could go back to changing design again, and I like this one a little bit less. You could go back to less words in standard. You could go back to make less splashy effects. But I think that the thing is that the excitement for Magic is pretty high. The commander areas of the game, even the limited areas of the game, have not suffered from like play boosters. Cube is at an all-time high. CDH is higher than I would have ever expected it to be. And so changing the way the Magic's designed doesn't make a ton of sense right now, but it could be the way that you fix this problem. I want to go back to the point I made and the counter-argument for some of this. Let's say that you open a cloud in Final Fantasy. And so because of that, you go buy 3 more clouds and 4 Quarry Steelcutters, only to find out that Quarry Steelcutter is banned. Well, that sucks. That feels really, really bad when you show up to your standard tournament with your Quarry Steelcutter cloud deck. But I would argue that's not the point of the B&R. I would argue the job of the B&R is to keep the format competitive and fun. And I think that ignoring banning, like, let's say Cloud's the problem instead of Quarry Steelcutter in this example. Not banning Cloud because of this would be problematic. I think that we saw this with the One Ring. It was legal way too long. I don't know anybody who doesn't think that. Like, legitimately, I don't know a person who doesn't think that. And this just means that we need to either do one of these changes or shorten our ban list time so that people can be more excited about Magic more often and longer. After all of this, I want to just be clear. I love Magic. I wouldn't be doing a Magic podcast on year number, I don't know, is it 12? It's crazy. It's crazy how long I've been doing this. And that's even just CCMTG, right? That's not all of the Magic stuff that I've done. But I think that it's time to admit that the current B&R is not working. People are clamoring for a change to it every time it's mentioned, and we can do better. So, anyway, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this. Don't forget to check out Constructed Criticism, our weekly podcast on improving at Magic the Gathering with a focus on Constructed, as well as my other podcast over at Need to Nerd on the Heezy Game Media YouTube channel. And then we're figuring out a date to bring back Constructed Clash, a weekly video series when we can do it, about just 2 decks clashing together and talking about the decks. My co-host of that one joined a competitive Halo team. He's awesome. So he's always doing stuff like that. But thank you so much, and we'll see you guys on next time with a new video here on the Constructed Criticism YouTube channel.